Okay, so hello again to everybody in the Hebrews 6:1 Society and anybody else who might be kind enough to give this video its due attention. I've got a little bit of a shorter little point that I want to share with you tonight, and you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. If I seem a little bit distracted, it's because I am. I'm returning home from Charlotte. I'm on Interstate 77, and for reasons which should be obvious, I am reminded of that country song. I don't remember who did it, but there was a country song entitled "Jesus Take the Wheel." So anyway, Jesus, if you're watching, if you're listening, wheel's yours. Be that as it may, this is either the most expeditious idea I've ever had or the stupidest, and whether or not I score a ticket or an accident, I guess we'll determine that. Anyway, all that side points. I just finished attending the concert here at Amos' South End. The main act was The Devil Wears Prada, a Christian heavy metal band. There was one other Christian band on the set, which was For Today. And For Today is one of my absolute favorite bands of all time. Every time I get a chance to go and see them, they just prove to be a real source of encouragement to me. They're a source of encouragement to those who already are Christians and a source of evangelism for those in the crowd who are not. So they really serve a really excellent purpose in God's kingdom, and I'm glad to have had the chance to come out and support them tonight by coming out and seeing them. During the set, Maddie Montgomery, the singer, was really good at sharing some really valuable thoughts, and it caused me to come up with a few, as I've been known to call them, Krasnofisms, and you guys probably know who I named those after. But anyway, one of the things that Maddie shared when he was on stage, when they weren't performing their music, was he said, that, when they talk about, being followers of Jesus Christ, and when they talk about being Christians, and then when they talk about encouraging others to see the light in the darkness that is Jesus Christ, they really mean it. And, there's nothing really fake about it for them. And, they don't hop off the stage and then, go diving headlong into a life of sin. That's not to say that, they don't struggle with sin, obviously. And we'll come back to that point in a minute. But one of the little nuggets of wisdom that came to me in that is, for a band, it's pretty obvious and it's pretty clear cut to see them as performers on the stage. But we don't always necessarily view ourselves as such. But at the end of the day, I think we really are. At the end of the day, we are being watched and we are being observed by the outside world, by not only the non-Christian world, but the Christian world as well. We're always on a 24-hour notice, basically. And, in our own way, whether we want to be or not, we're all performers on a stage. Just by living out our everyday lives in real life. Real life, in and of itself, is a performance. And, one of the questions that I want to pose to you is, when your stage time is finished and the curtains close, and you get that chance to walk off the stage, do you throw the script away? Or do you consume that script? Do you make that script the very essence of your existence? In other words, do you keep the words of the script in your heart, or do you just perform it long enough for everybody to see? Now, when I ask you that question, I'm not necessarily asking it so that you'll answer me, or so that you'll answer the discussion group, because we're really not the ones that need that answer. What you need to do is answer the mirror. What I need to do is go home and answer the mirror. I need to go and say, look at myself in the mirror and say, self, am I just performing the script for others to see, or am I really making it a point to take in the script, as some of the prophecies in Ezekiel would illustrate? Am I really taking it in? Am I letting it nourish me and just sustain me and all of those things, and am I allowing myself to be ultimately a product of that script? Of course, I don't need to spell this out, I don't think, at this point, but, of course, what I mean by script is the scriptures. And what I mean when I say, when the curtains close and your time to step off the stage is there, what I'm talking about there is, what happens when you end the time when people are looking at you and seeing what you're doing, and you begin that time when nobody's looking. A guy that I listen to on the radio a whole lot, the ESPN guy, Colin Cowherd, I think he said it best. He said, true integrity is doing what you say is right even when nobody's looking. I think that's very true. And I think it's important that we apply that sort of integrity to our Christian life. And that sort of brings me to one of the other points that came up. I had the privilege of talking with one of the guitarists from Ford today after their set. His name is Mike. Really awesome guy. We just had a great conversation. We were a big source of encouragement to each other. He encouraged me, I encouraged him. It was just a big happy-go-lucky encourage-a-thon. Or as I like to call it, or as I'm going to start calling it, a Godversation. I just coined that term, but hey, it's not copyrighted, so knock yourself out. Go for it. Use it. Share it with your friends. Anyway, the point is, one of the things that came up in our talk was that there's a really big difference between simple and easy. We can read the Bible, and, we can have it made plain to us, what's right and what's wrong, and what's true and what isn't, and all of those things. And that's cool. And we can wrap our mind around those things, and we can say, yeah, okay, I get it. That's great. But at the end of the day, when it goes from, understanding the lesson to applying the lesson is still every bit as simple as it was. But sometimes it's hard to make it actually happen, Say I'm an offensive lineman, and, the coach calls the play, for me to block the defensive lineman in front of me. Well, maybe, in concept, it's very simple. Okay, I block the guy in front of me. That's not rocket science. But it happens to be the guy in front of me is like 380 pounds and is a 2-time Pro Bowler. And, I was lucky to make my high school squad. So while the idea of blocking him is simple, the actual practice of it is anything but simple. Actually, it's still simple, but it's hard to do. And, walking off the stage and allowing that script to, be absorbed in our life and to just consume every bit of us, that's what's simple but hard. And so, I encourage you to rise to the challenge. I encourage you, just like I'm encouraging myself, to say, hey, you know what? There is life past the point when everybody's looking, and it's important that excuse me, it's important that each and every one of us, make it a point to stand by what's right and to continue to fight that good battle, even when nobody's looking. Sometimes especially when nobody's looking. Because we all know at the end of the day, there's never a point when nobody's looking. We're always under the watchful eye of our Heavenly Father. And, so all of that being said, the other point that I had to come up in my mind while I was driving and just sort of reflecting on all of this is, maybe we should sometimes sort of reevaluate our definition of spiritual victory. I think sometimes it's easy for us to get the idea in our head that what spiritual victory means is reaching that point in your life when the struggle ends. And I don't know about you, but in my life, I've yet to see that point. And I'm kind of inclined to believe that I'm never going to see that point. I think, to some extent, the struggle against sin, the struggle against those things that conflict with our integrity, that struggle is always going to be there. So if we define victory as an absence or as an ending of that struggle, we're never going to realize that victory. We're never going to really understand what that victory is. I think, on the other hand, victory isn't so much an end to the struggle. I think in our lives, what victory is, what spiritual victory is fighting the same struggle, but arriving at a point where you no longer experience the same levels of defeat. All right, just sort of take a moment and think on that and try to understand where I'm going with this. We all encounter different temptations. We all have different weaknesses, different affinities for different types of sin in our life. And, the struggles that we encounter, involve those times when those sins sort of present themselves to us and say, hey, old buddy, I'm, sin to which you were particularly tempted. Let's go hang out like we always do. And in our humanity, we give into that, and that's the struggle. The struggle, a lot of times the object of the game is to just, fight the urge to give into those sorts of things. So, I think what happens is, as we focus ourselves on God more, and as we focus on putting God first in our lives more, and I think as we focus on getting into His Word the way that we're supposed to, and as we focus on, engaging God in prayer the way that we're supposed to, and all of those things, I think our ability to not experience defeat in those struggles increases. I think it becomes easier for us to say, sin, we've been buddies for a long time and everything, but, I'm gonna have to walk away on this one. I'm just gonna have to turn you down. I'm sorry, I'm committing myself to, not engaging with you anymore. Whatever you are, sin, for every one of us it's different. So, I just kind of use sin as that vague general term. So, anyway, kind of think about that. Think about that as a possible definition of spiritual victory. That's a much more reachable goal. It's a much more realistic goal in our Christian lives. And I think at the end of the day, it's one that makes a lot more sense. But that's not to say that my definition is right. I believe that each of us has to go according to how we're uniquely led by Jesus Christ. So, if that definition works for you, if putting it in those terms is a blessing to you, then hey, great, And if not, hey, that's cool too, As long as you're getting in the Word and engaging God in prayer and going with how He leads you, I got no arguments for that. So anyway, thank you again for your attention, and you guys be safe. We'll talk to you again soon.